Hey everyone, Kyle once again, and welcome back to the next to the next episode of. Sorry, I drew a blank for a second. The next episode review of Zombieland Saga: Revenge, episode 8, the Saga Incident Part 1. Now, this is what I was looking forward to. I was looking forward to this because we're finally getting Yuguri's backstory. Because Yuguri, of all the group of Franz Shushu with our main group, right? She's the one who's been overlooked. You know, we got a lot of we got the gist of most of what happened to our main group before they died, right? Well, except for Tai, though. But Yuguri is one who's been overlooked. We never knew who she was before she died. Although she said she was like one from like for Kotaro saying from a long time ago, right? So I was interested to figure out what was her backstory was, and we finally got part of it, right? This intro here, and I say the Saga Incident Part 1. I thought this was a really great episode. I thought I thought this was better than episode 4 of this season. So yeah, as of yet, I would say this is the best episode I've seen as of yet of this season of Zombieland Saga Revenge. Better than episode 4. And this doesn't even involve singing or anything, right? It just shows how it's all going to play out to eventually, because eventually, in part 2, right, Yuguri's going to die before being brought back to life. So it's a slow build up, a slow burn build up to it, which I like, So and it also shows how the whole saving saga was going on even back then, because this takes place in the late 1800s. Excuse me. And pardon me, I swallow wrong, from gummy bears. And we see that Yuguri was a courtesan, which I thought was she was. Well, not a course, but a legendary courtesan. When it's like she became a legend so popular that she what was it? They didn't pay for her or it was something like that, right? And the person who gave her freedom, trained her in Utah, all these other things, right? And to live this peaceful life in Saga, but at the same time it's a lonely life because she's all by herself, right? She's been living all by herself, basically with no relatives, no next of kin at all. So it's a peaceful life, but at the same time, it's a lonely life as well. That's one thing about we're learning about Yuguri, right? And the funny thing is, we see all of our main characters, like Lily, Sakura, Saki, Tai, Junko, Ai, right? But it's not really them, though. It's just like you say, it's their ancestors who looks exactly like the same set of hairstyle and all that stuff looks exactly like them, except for Kotaro, who his ancestor was a Kishi, who looks a little bit different, right, from what how he looks from the present, right. He changed a little bit his face and hairstyle, but it's still same because he's still shouting at the top of his lungs, saving Saga, right? It shows how even back then how saving Saga was important. And he has his friend. You could say his supposedly best friend. Saying that he's delusional and all this, saving Saga, right? He's saying he's a fool and all this, and teasing him about it, and then when he meets Yuguri, right? When he gave her back her pinwheel she got, and also, of course, almost getting run over by, well, instead of a truck, right, or a car, vehicle, it's a person, back then when a person just pulls the cart, right? But she gets out of the way, and he tries to save her, but she gets out of the way herself, and he falls in the water. And as we're seeing all of our, like I said, all our Franz Shushu's ancestors, you can say, and how Kishi, that was the guy's name, taking a liking to Yuguri, and the point where she brings this a box to where Kishi's grandfather lives, where he's the one who did the voodoo magic of bringing back people back from the dead, which you saw the same zombie dog from the present, Romero. But you can say it's a different one, or it could be still. You can assume it's the same dog has been there all the time. But you can still say it's probably the same dog, or it's a different dog. But looking exactly the same though. But which it brings the question, which shows that his ancestors knew about this whole thing, that's how he knew how to bring the girls back from in the present, because due to his ancestry lineage, you could say. But the biggest question, when part 2 happens, when she dies, maybe he's gonna bring her back with her, like Kishi, like he liked her a lot. Maybe when she died, this is what I'm assuming for part 2 here. That if she dies, he's gonna bring her back, but fails, and that way the lineage will still continue on until in the present when Kotaro is gonna bring everybody back. That's what I'm saying. Is it like we may have he's gonna attempt to bring her back, but fails until it becomes the present when Kotaro finally brings her back. I don't know. So I'm just assuming that's going to happen. Maybe will happen part 2. Who knows? Because it also about the guy Itu, the guy's friend, Kichi's friend, right? I already knew something was off about this guy when I saw him. Just he has that scary look with the eyebrows and everything. Like even to the point where Yuguri turns around and tries to deflect, the guy's fan with her chopsticks. And even to the point after when they were having eating a dinner, when Kishi passes out, he's talking about how this country is like turned violent, barbaric, right? And at the end of the episode, he gives a note to this supposedly homeless guy, and he reads it, and then he goes and runs off. So he has something to do with this, right? Either he may have taken it. This is what says it was obviously something's gonna happen in part 2. Whether he's gonna assassinate her or something it's gonna be something a part where it's gonna end up in Yuguri's death. Basically, something is gonna happen of that sort, or because he always just something to do with how he wants to stop with Kichi, his delusional things of saving Saga and all this stuff. Well. There's a lot going through my mind how I'm imagining it, why I can't explain right now, but a lot of this stuff is going to happen into part 2, so. But the whole thing, what Yuguri's backstory has so far is very interesting. I like how the animation of the episode is, of course. It's showing how the time back is, the cherry blossoms and all that, and how Yuguri's life was a peaceful life, but a lonely life though, and how people are saying that how she's this legendary Corson. But I thought this episode was a really great episode. I think as of yet it's the best episode I've seen. And how it's the best episode where it doesn't involve singing or anything. Well, performing like idol stuff, right? Because back then there was no idols back then, but still. But we get more of Yuguri's backstory. Yuguri's backstory is being explained, which is good, though, finally. Seeing how her life was before she died. And it was interesting. I thought it really was an interesting story so far. Until part 2, when when a tragic happened. Now, like I said before, if Yuguri dies, maybe Ichikichi's going to attempt to bring her back, but something happens and fails, and then until she gets brought back into the present. Who knows? But we're sure we won't until part 2 though. But how Yuguri's, like I said before, Yuguri, I'm glad her backstory is getting explained because she was one of the overlooked characters who didn't have a backstory from the season 1 up until now. And also thinking though, she was more the adult of the group because they're all. Well, I would say she's not older than all the girls were, but she acted more maturely. She was the more mature one of the group. and also explaining how this whole saving saga was a thing even back then in this timeline. So yeah, the whole saving saga, well, how it was a big deal back then, even for like the ancestral of Kodro though, but it was still a thing back then. So how it was important, you know, how was all this to be how it conducts into the plot of this whole entire story of Savin Saga, and like I said, with the heritage of the bringing back, you know, the voodoo stuff with with his grandpa, and then the whole thing with the Kichi's friend, you know, how, you know, the red flags are pointing onto him, right? But at the end of the day, even when part 2 happens, it's gonna end all the same for Yuguri, because how it ends up she's gonna die, because it's not how it ends. It's not going to be a peaceful one, basically, because we know how it's all going to end with her dying anyway. But how her life was, her backstory was explained, all the stuff, and even seeing our main characters, even back then, you can say like their ancestors. You can still say how they're all tied. You can say they're all tied with all this, you know. Even before where there was seeing Tai talking normal instead of saying "oh," right. When she was Yugura's almost got run over by the man pulling the cart, and Tai was in, and you're like, huh. So you hear her talking in a normal voice. That was kind of funny. Yeah, but Saga Instant Part 1, I thought it was a really great episode. I'd give it a thumbs up for this one, especially not for Yuguri's backstory, but the whole thing it was back then. How the whole thing with Saving Saga was even still a big thing back then. So, yeah. So the Saga Instant Part 1, I thought it was a really great episode, so I'm looking forward to seeing Part 2. Part 2 didn't show much, which is a good thing, because, you know, the less you know, the better. So it was a good thing that none of it was given too much away. So, and how the series ended with that note with the guy giving the note to that one guy and guy running off. So something major is gonna happen. So, but the good thing the preview didn't give too much away though. So I'm looking forward to the next part 2 for next week. Just learn to talk right again. But yeah, good, really great episode. This is the best one I've seen yet. But thanks for watching. Stay tuned for the next video. Later.